Alrighty, so at the time of this recording, it's 10:46 p.m. Pacific time, and I kid you not, we are not done in terms of MLS action in this midweek action because apparently out in Colorado and out in Denver, or Culver City to be exact, the Colorado Rapids and the Vancouver Whitecaps are looking to trying to break the record for the latest MLS kickoff we have ever seen in league history because it's been 4 hours since they have announced that they've gone under a lightning delay, and I know there's a bad thunderstorm that's going on in Denver, but for whatever reason, they said that they're just gonna wait this out. And honestly, I don't know when are they exactly going to wait this out, or if they eventually is gonna call this game because yeah, it's kind of a little bit ridiculous. The fact that we're almost closing in at 11 o'clock and also closing into midnight in Denver, and yet they're probably going to start the game, and we might actually see not just an MLS After Dark, but maybe just MLS After Dark, or even MLS in sunrise if this game ends up playing at 3 a.m. in the morning or 4 a.m. in the morning because of how the situation is. But that being said, I knew I couldn't wait out for that game. I knew I have to start the review, and I was actually planning to do the review backwards because so many times I've done the review in part one looking at the Eastern Conference game. I thought this time I'm going to do something different where I'm actually going to look at the Western Conference game. So that's what I'm going to do, and we're going to start off with these game in the Pacific time zone because there was actually 3 games that happened in the Pacific time zone. Well, actually, it turns out to be 4 because we also had a couple of games that had lightning delay, including the game between Austin and Dallas, and that Copa Tias didn't even kick off until like 8 o'clock, and was what we thought at this point was the last game to kick off until that game between Colorado and Vancouver has yet to kick off at the time of this review. But anyway, with that babbling out of the way, let's actually get to the first game, which is the Galaxy versus Sporting KC. And I think this is kind of one of those games where I don't think either team would be very happy with this result because the Galaxy looked like they stole this one from Sporting KC, and then they basically concede a penalty late because that's what happened when you are one of the worst team in the league. You just have not been able to get any luck whatsoever. Now, early on, the first shot of the game did see Polito just pulls it wide from close range. And by the way, if it wasn't for that late penalty, I would say for Sporting KC, this felt like it was a carbon copy of the last game against LAFC, where they looked dominant for most part of the game, and yet they somehow still come out on the losing end. Though, speaking of Polito, he would score in the 12th minute from Tommy to make it 1-0 in favor of Sporting KC. And again, you're just thinking, well, looks like Sporting KC is going to roll over the Galaxy in this one. But at the same time, I also want to say that it was shocking defending from the Galaxy. I mean, Polito just wide open in the box. You cannot allow a goal scorer like Alan Polito that wide open and not expected to be punished. And yeah, the Galaxy was punished there. They were losing 1-0. Rosario tried to make it 2-0, but he heads it right to Bassi. And again, it's been all Sporting KC up to that point. They had all the possession. They were dominating this game. The shots were 4-1 for Sporting KC through 22 minutes. But then in the 24th minute, the Galaxy equalized. It's Caceres scoring from Costa to tie the game up at one apiece, and also, definitely I want to wish Martin Caceres a speedy recovery because he did had to be stretcher off after this game. I'm not sure exactly what happened because I was keeping an eye on other games, but yeah, you'd never like to see a player that had to be stretched off and hope that it's not a long-term injury. But that being said, that was completely against the run of play because up to that point it was all Sporting KC. That was really the first real attack the Galaxy has had, and they score on it. And that yeah, it's now SKC that I also thought was with some shocking defending because while this ball was coming in, Caceres was completely unmarked. Like again, that's just not great defending whatsoever. And I also thought the script had split because then I thought the Galaxy started dictating plays and they looked like they're trying to take the lead. Though Showery did puts it high from long range, and the shots were still 11-3 in favor of Sporting KC. But we had to halftime with this game tied up at one apiece. Now in the second half, Polito would puts it wide from close, but then in the 60th minute, Judd thought that he scored his second goal of the season and give the Galaxy the lead, but the problem was he foul to us as he was going in on goal. And judging by his delay kind of celebration, he knew that yeah, he clearly fouled Fontas to allow him to go through on goal, but he was not going to be denied in this game, Preston Judd, because just 3 minutes after his goal was disallowed, he would score scored from Pooch and Edwards to give the Galaxy a 2-1 lead, and then the post denied the Galaxy a second in goal or a third goal to in this one in the 73rd minute before Pooch would put it high from close range. But then on the other end, Bond had to rob Russell from point blank range. I mean, that's one that Johnny Russell would love to have back. You don't usually see him missing those clear cut chances. But I also thought the Galaxy got to be careful because, this is only a 1 goal lead. And again, knowing the fact that the Galaxy has been vulnerable at the back at times in this game, you just wonder it can only take one chance before Sporting KC can potentially get the equalizer. And they had a chance to do so because in the 90th minute, a penalty was given to Sporting KC as Aguirre handballed it in the box. It was a pretty clear handball there. Polito steps up. He slots home the penalty to tie it up at 2 apiece, but that is as much as Sporting KC can do in this game. As in the end, it ends in a 2-2 draw. The shots in this one, 21 shots compared to 10 that the Galaxy had, but here's the problem. Only 5 of them was on target compared to 2 that the Galaxy had. 10 shots off target for the 6 that the Galaxy had. 6 shots that was blocked for the 2 that the Galaxy had. And possession-wise, 50% for both of these team. And again, for the Galaxy, they will not be happy because anytime when you give up a late goal after a really frustrating season, it's just kind of add more of the frustration. But for Sporting KC, this kind of feel like a game very similar to what we saw when they start the season 10 games without a win. A game where they look like they're the more dominant side, but unfortunately they just unable to stretch out the lead and give up those two goals and looked like things were kind of gone against them. Now, again, fortunate for them, they actually were able to salvage a draw because if this was a loss, I mean, you could say that this is pretty much a carbon copy to what we've seen in the first game of the season. Well, I wouldn't say carbon copy, but more like just a way to see how the first 10 game of the season has been, which is just with them completely snake been going for it on the attacking end and keep finding ways to lose games. But at least they salvage a draw in this one. But still, again, this is a very winnable game for Sporting KC. And now all of a sudden, in the last couple of games, things have kind of slowed down for Sporting KC. They're starting to fall back to bad habits like they did in the beginning of the season of not getting wins when they should be, and now sliding down the standing once again. But that being said, moving on into the next match is LAFC and the Seattle Sounders. So for LAFC, they're back to where they are at the Western Conference standing at the top of it after a 1-0 win against Seattle. And it turns out all they need is just 57 seconds to score a goal, and what turns out to be the winning goal of this one, as Mateus Bogusz would score from Opoku to give LAFC a 1-0 lead. It was a wonderful strike there from Bogusz. So wonderful that it completely fooled Jake Zivins. Like, Jake Zivins, he said that one goes wide, but yeah, it was pretty clear that it didn't go wide. I mean, to be fair, I will give Jake Zivin a bit of a pass with the way that it's only the first minute of the game, and that old saying how maybe players are not up to speed. Sometimes commentator maybe not up to speed even when you're just in the first minute of the game. But also when you look at the camera and go, it definitely looked like that one went wide instead of going in, and that this feels like it's kind of like the opposite where you sometimes see like the ball look like it went in from an angle, but then it actually went wide. It's like a deceptive kind of angle and so forth. But yeah, that gave LAFC a 1-0 lead. Chu did try to respond for Seattle, but his shot is actually deflected away for a corner. Holland's head then heads it high from the corner before Rui Diaz would puts it wide from long range. This was a very entertaining game, at least in the first half. It was pretty back in forth. And again, it was a good start for both of these teams. It was bit back and forth. And I also thought that there was space for Seattle to exploit, but unfortunately, the final ball has been poor for them. Even when they look like there's a chance for them to exploit this LAFC defense. Though Opoku did puts it wide from long range in the 21st minute. And then McCarthy would deny Rui Diaz from long range, and then he denied Rui Diaz again in the 23rd minute. I mean, the way Rui Diaz played in this game, especially in the first half, I was kind of surprised that he didn't get up on the score sheet because he was very lively in this game. The Sounders again was pressing for the equalizer, though Cristamo did pull it just wide from close before Holland's head heads it wide from close range, and all of a sudden, I thought LAFC were looking like the more threatening side. Again, it was kind of back and forth. You thought that maybe there was going to be one team that maybe put some sustained pressure, and then the other team throw kind of a haymaker back and just trying to get themselves a goal too, and that's kind of the case for LAFC looking for that second goal. Palacio then puts it high from long range before Bogusz was in on goal there, but this time he missed wide in the first man stoppage time. But we do head to halftime with LAFC leading 1-0. Now in the second half, João Paulo's shot actually took a deflection and it hits the side netting before Rui Diaz puts it wide on the volley, and it did not miss by much. And again, Seattle was once again pressing to try to get the equalizing goal. There was a huge shout for a penalty for Seattle, and especially for Raul Rui Diaz, as he felt like he was brought down uh, by Chiellini. I think in the end that was the right call. I don't think there was enough contact. I mean, I feel like Rui Diaz, he kind of embellished it a little bit, but yeah, I don't think there was enough contact in that play. But there was no doubt that again Seattle was trying to get the equalizer, but to LAFC credit, it feels like they weathered the storm because Seattle kind of slowed down as the game goes along and look for a second goal. And then I thought fatigue was starting to play into both teams. Now for LAFC, it's not a big surprise because again, this team they have played so many games, and the good news for LAFC is that next week is actually going to be the first week in what feels like a long time that they don't have to play in the middle of the week. So there's definitely a sign that they're definitely hitting the light at the end of the tunnel in terms of just playing so many games in such a short period of time. But at the same time, I thought it was surprising to see Seattle kind of slowing things down. Now, they mentioned during this game that this is actually the first game in 11 for the Sounders, so maybe the Sounders are trying to get themselves up to speed a little bit. Which again, it didn't feel like that was the case because they were kind of up to speed up to that point. And that again, when you have a team that definitely had more of the rest, I mean, as long as it's not ridiculous rest like 20 days or so, for 11 days should be enough for a team to go full 90 without any problems. So I was really surprised to see Seattle look really tired, despite the fact that they were by far the more rested team compared to LAFC. And then in the 78th minute, it looked like Cifuentes put the game to bed with the second goal to give LAFC a 2-0 lead, but VAR says no because Cifuentes handballed that one, and he knew it. Like knowing the fact that he kind of had that lack of celebration, I think we kind of had a feeling that it could have been a handball. I mean, from my first look, I thought that could potentially be a handball, and then when I look in the replay, I mean, it was pretty blatant that Cifuentes handballed that one. This is not like what we saw just a couple of days ago with Giacchini handball that one where it's clear and obvious. This was pretty clear and obvious. So they overturned that. It was still 1-0, and there was lifeline for Seattle. But the question is, can they find themselves the late equalizer? Can they able to provide some pressure that they had early in the game and create a spark to push for the late equalizer? Well, the answer is no, because the last chance of this game actually was Opoku blasted high from 5 yards out. In other words, he missed an absolute sitter from 5 yards out, and he's pretty fortunate the fact that this actually happened a couple of seconds before the full time whistle was blown, because I would have easily said that this miss is going to come back to on LAFC if Seattle can find a late equalizer, but Seattle couldn't. It ends with LAFC getting a 1-0 win, and the shots in this one, 14 shots for the 10 that the Sounders had. Both teams had 2 shots on goal, 9 shots off target for the 6 that the Sounders had, 2 shots that was blocked for the 3 that LAFC had, and possession-wise, 52% possession compared to 48% possession that LAFC has. And for LAFC, back-to-back wins have now raised them up the top of the standings, and this is what they needed to do. Again, I know that they are definitely very tired because of just so many games that has happened in the past couple of weeks, but it was big for this team that they need to get points, and they need to get themselves points so they can take advantage of those games in hand, because those games in hand, it's good to see that you have that to make up some ground, but you need to win those games in order to make up those ground. And it looked like early on that was not going to be the case, but LAFC has done a great job of that. And again, now back at the top of the standings, and I think they still have, I think, 1 or 2 game in hand. And I know for sure they have 1 game in hand over St. Louis City, who, little spoiler alert, in terms of my review for tomorrow to look at part number 2, they lost their game against RSL. But for the Seattle Sounders, there's got to be a lot of concern because this is now what 5 or 6 games out now. Well, actually they have got a win, but it feels like it's like one win in the last 7 or 8 games for the Sounders team. This team is struggling badly, and after last week, it looked like things were turning around. Well, actually, it wasn't last week, but maybe a week and a half ago when they put up 3 goals against Charlotte, but unfortunately they also conceded 3 goals in that thrilling free draw. It looked like things were starting to turn around for the Sounders, and then this game happened. So yeah, for the Sounders, they need to get wins on the board because they're definitely sliding down the standings, and there are tons of teams below them. I mean, the West is very compacted right now. There is a ton of team that is looking to try to get that third spot, and if the Sounders don't get things going, they can really fall down the table very quickly. But that being said, moving on in the next match, and the last game on this board is the Portland Timbers versus Chicago Fire. So I would say that this game is easily one of the most surprising result of this season, and it's not just because of the fact that the Timbers kind of found old habits from their COVID year, where they somehow find ways to concede late goals to frustrate their fan base. But I think the most surprising factor is that this is one of the rare times for the Chicago Fire that they were able to hold on to a lead late in the game. I mean, it feels like it's once in a full moon that the Chicago Fire is able to hold on to a late lead this season and really for the past decade or so. But that's exactly what happened in this one. And to be fair, they got off to a great start to this game. I thought they controlled the possession early, though again, maybe that's due to the fact that the Timbers loves to go with their bread and butter, trying to go quickly on the transition. But I also thought that they not only controlled that possession, but they looked decent. I mean, they were not allowing the Timbers to go on the other end on the transitional play, and they were rewarded by that by getting an early goal in the 8th minute. It's Fabian Herbert. He scored from Gutierrez and Jimenez to give the Fire a 1-0 lead. Shaqiri was not available in this game, and I think it should be no surprise that with Gutierrez playing in that 10 role, he definitely makes this Fire attack been better. And as much as I know that they've been keep starting Shaqiri because it would be a really bad look for them to not start him, knowing the DP tag and the amount that he earns. But I just wonder, it's getting to a point where if you're Frank Copas, this is a tough choice that you have to make, but it's a choice that I think that he has to do, even if it's not a good look. He's got to put Gutierrez as a regular number 10 and maybe bench Shaqiri because Shaqiri doesn't really offer for that much as what Gutierrez has done this season. I mean, it's no surprise that this team has played so much better when Gutierrez is on the pitch compared to Shaqiri, and also when both of those players are playing in that same spot. Though Jimenez did pose it just wide from long range, and again, it's been a really slow start for this Timbers teams. It feels like it shouldn't be a slow start because again, this feels like it's a must-win game. I mean, I know the Timbers did win a couple of games ago, but knowing the fact that they've also been struggling, you just feel like this is a must-win game, especially against a team that they have never lost when they're playing at Providence Park. And spoiler alert, well, actually, it's not spoiler alert, but you can probably tell by the score that basically changed after tonight. Uh, Brady then denied Evander from close range before Boldy had a shot that was clear off the line. And I wrote, it seems like the Timbers saw what I wrote because they now started to press for the equalizer. Evander pulls it wide on the free kick. There was a huge shout for a penalty for Portland not given. Brady would then deny Moreno from close range, but then in the 26th minute, the Timbers finally solved Chris Brady as Frank Boldy, the only guy that seems like can score a goal for this Timbers side. He scored here from Moreno and Chara to ties the game up at one apiece. But then Jairo Torres looks to retake the lead for the Fire, but he was robbed by Bingham there. This was by far the best game I've seen Jairo Torres play for the Fire in a long time, and he's very unlucky not to get on the score sheet in this one. The shots were already 11-5 for the Timbers 33 minutes in, and then it would be 12-5 soon after as Moreno would blast one into the Timbers army. But we do head to halftime with this game tied up at one apiece. Now in the second half, Torres would put it wide from close as I thought it was another promising start for the Fire coming out of the break. They was trying to retake the lead. I thought the Timbers were trying to go with their bread and butter again, but again, just no final third quality and final ball quality whenever they go on the transition. I mean, there's been times where I feel like the Timbers did a really good job in terms of their transitional build up, but it's just that final ball that's just lack of quality, and it's kind of been the case this season where they just don't have that quality in the final ball, and this is where, I would also bring up the fact that they dearly missed the likes of Diego Valeri and Sebastian Blanco in this team, because if they still had Valeri and if Blanco, of course, hasn't started to kind of finally catch up to follow time himself, they wouldn't have this issue. It just feels like they miss that creativity. They miss that player that can be the focal point whenever they go on the transition and deliver those good final ball to finish off a great transition like we've seen from previous Timbers side. But then in the 83rd minute, Chicago retake the lead. It's Kai Kamara. He scored from Gutierrez to give the Fire a 2-1 lead. And again, Brian Gutierrez gets on the assist chart here. But more importantly for Kai Kamara, that's his 144th career MLS goal. And you know what that means? He's now just one away from Landon Donovan in terms of the second all-time list for MLS goal. And I think it's not if he reached that mark, but when exactly he's going to do it. Because, it's safe to say that Kai Kamara, I mean, I don't know if he's going to catch up to Wando. I mean, I feel like maybe he has 1 or 2 years left in the tank. Well, actually, maybe 2 more years left in the tank, and you really need to go put up Joseph Martinez number. Well, and this is back when Joseph Martinez was scoring goals year in year out and winning Golden Boot kind of number to trying to catch up to Wando in these next two seasons. But passing a legend like Landon Donovan, where that was the previous mark in terms of the all-time goal scored in MLS, that is definitely a huge achievement for Kai Kamara. But yeah, he of course scored here to make it 2-1 in favor of the Fire. And then it looked like She-Hulks were down to, or She-Hulks got a red card and the Fire was down to 10 men, but they did go to VAR to see whether or not if Shio's challenge on Nishikoda was not worthy of a red, and it wasn't. And not only that, they actually said that it wasn't a foul on that, and it's definitely the right call because when you look on the replay, it is pretty clear that Shiho's got the ball. It was a clean challenge there. But in the third minute of stoppage time, Brady would deny Larea from close range. This was a great game for Chris Brady coming back in off of injury. Timbers then I thought pressed for a late equalizer in Chicago again. They were trying not to go full fire again. I mean, if you're a Fire fan watching this, you know that I think most Fire fans would have at this point zero expectation that they were going to pull this one out. And then for Gaza trying to go on his bike there, but he puts that one high in the 6 minute stoppage time. Unfortunately, kind of falling to Nathan instead of falling to a certain guy that has scored a couple of bicycle kick go for this Timber side. But yeah, in the end, surprisingly, the Fire was able to hold on to a 2-1 win in this one against the Timbers. And as I said, this is the first time they've beaten the Portland Timbers at Providence Park. The shots in this one, 17 shots for the 12 that the Fire has, 5 shots on goal for the 3 that the Fire has, 6 shots off target for the 5 that the Fire has, 6 shots that was blocked for the 4 that the Fire has, and possession-wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that the Timbers has in this game. And again, for the Fire, I think their fans will be happy for once their team didn't actually decided to find ways to lose in the most heartbreaking fashion. But for the Portland Timbers, I mean, again, just things that are continue to head to the wrong direction, and that again with this team, I just think that I think the biggest concern now is the fact that yes, they're still dealing with injuries, but with the fact that their attack has started to become more healthier, they're still not scoring the goals, and that's where the concern has to be on this team. Besides the defense kind of let them down in this one too. But that being said, I am now going to switch sports and look at the last two games to finish off my review for part number 1 of this review of looking at these midweek games from match week number 20. By the way, while I was switching boards, I did check the Colorado Rapids Twitter page to see whether or not if that game is still under delay, and now it seems like it is not going to be under delay anymore because they have officially said that the game has been postponed to a later date, which makes me wonder why in the world did they not do that like maybe an hour or 2 hours ago. But nevertheless, that means that there's actually just going to be 11 games for me to review. But what I will say is that the next two games that I'm gonna talk about are games that basically are affected by weather and ended really late. And we start off in this game between the Houston Dynamo versus the San Jose Earthquakes. And yeah, this is probably one of the least surprising resort of the season. I mean, coming into this game, I knew the Quakes had no shots. Like knowing the fact that this team one is playing against a Houston team that, this team is just pretty much almost untouchable this season at home, and knowing the fact that the Quakes are really tired. Like, if there is one time where the Quakes may have picked a worse time to play against the Houston Dynamo on the road, this is definitely one of those times. And especially, it doesn't help the weather was like 100 degrees in this one, and the Quakes are playing their fourth game in the past 10 days, and a lot of these guys are tired. I knew that this was pretty much an automatic L for the Quakes, and it was. I mean, just 5 minutes into this one, this game was pretty much done, and it started in the second minute of this game with Bossy getting a goal here to give the Dynamo a 1-0 lead. Though you would like to thank Tanner Beeson for that assist, because yeah, Beeson just completely gave that ball away. Like he passed the ball right there in the middle to Bossy, and Bossy said, "Thank you very much. I'm just gonna slots it home for one of the easiest goal I've scored." And yeah, that gives the Dynamo a 1-0 lead. And by the way, I'm really hoping that might be one of the last time I'm gonna see Tanner Beeson in the starting role. Unless if some of our center backs are not available. I was kind of surprised that Jonathan Mensah was not available in this one. I'm not sure he's on international duty, because he's not on internet. I think he retired from international duty with Ghana a long time ago, so that was really puzzling to not see him in the starting 11. But yeah, I mean, Beeson, that, like, you cannot just pass the ball like that in the middle, especially the fact that in that position he should just clear that ball away. I don't know why he decided to pass that one in the middle, because you're gonna get intercepted if you decide to try to do that. But yeah, that gives the Dynamo a 1-0 lead. Not long after, it would be 2-0, with Corey Bear getting the score on the score sheet from Quinones and Bassi to make it 2-0. And yeah, I just wrote, well, this is pretty much done for the Quakes. Like, if I wasn't doing like reviews of these games, I would have just turned the TV off after this, because I knew the Quakes had no shots of coming back for this. Though again, I kind of started to not pay too much attention to to this game, because there was also other games that is going on. So can also say thank you, Quakes, for actually making my life a little bit easier, not to have to keep up too much of one game, and I can basically focus on the other game that is going on at the same time. Now, in the 7th minute, Ibobasi was in on goal there, but he missed wide, and then in the 21st minute, Ibobasi would blast it wide, and then Svinchenko would then struck the post on the header, and this happened right before the hydration break was happened, and I thought that was a hydration break the Quakes desperately needed, because at that point the Dynamo was just completely dominating this game. They were just basically passing the ball for fun and dominant possession, and at a point where it felt like it was a training session for the Dynamo against the Quakes in this one. And that hydration break also helped the Quakes in the fact that it feels like Luchi Gonzalez must have said some choice words to the player, because they come out that hydration break strong, and they were rewarded with a goal in the 40th minute to get one back, as Carlos Acapo would score from Espinoza to make it 2-1 in favor of the Dynamo. By the way, with that assist, Espinoza have now tied Shea Salinas for the Quakes' all-time assist list, and there's no doubt that he's going to be passing that maybe in these next game, or even, or yeah, in the next game, or in the next couple of them. I mean, Christian Espinoza, what a legend he's been already doing his short time for the Quakes, and I think by the time he finishes his career with the Quakes, he's probably going to be well above as the top assist leader for this Quakes team. Though Artur did hits it high from close before Alayu Ibrahim would puts it to wide as he was in on goal, and I thought the Dynamo was looking to try and restore that 2-goal lead, but we do head to halftime with the Dynamo leading 2-1. Now in the second half, Aliou Ibrahim then went in on goal again, but this time like the first half, he missed wide. Once again, the Dynamo was in complete control. They were looking for a third goal, and then the game was stopped for Lightning. It was stopped for a while. It didn't resume until 11:15 p.m. local time, which is 9:15, and by then, pretty much all the West Coast game was already near the end. So this was all also going to be one of the games that's going to finish uh the latest. In fact, both Texas game finished relatively late because I've heard there's also inclement weather that Tex Texas teams have to deal with both in Houston and also in Austin. In the 65th minute, Daniel would deny Bossy from close before Rodriguez heads it wide from close. And then in the 81st minute, Oferson would make it 3-1 from Herrera and Bossy. So if you're a Quakes fan and you were maybe having a slight hope that maybe the team would respond, no, they didn't respond. In fact, in the 89th minute, it would be 4-1 in favor of Houston as Oferson would score again. He scored here from Herrera to make it 4-1 in favor of the Dynamo, and I just immediately wrote, feel like the Quakes didn't even bother showing up after the Lightning break. Like I honestly, I feel like for them, they might as well just decided to say, we're not gonna show up. We're just gonna think about packing our bags and fly back to San Jose because yeah, they clearly did not show up and couldn't even be bothered in terms of playing in the last 30 minutes of this game, and as a result, they lose this one badly. This is the worst loss this season for the Quakes, a 4-1 beat down against the Dynamo. The shots in this one, 15 shots compared to 8 that the Quakes had. Only 1 shots on goal for the 5 that Houston had. 7 shots off target for the 5 that the Quakes had. 2 shots on block for the 3 that the Dynamo has. And possession-wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession that the Quakes has. And with this win, the Dynamo have now moved up to 4th place. And keep in mind, because the West are pretty competitive this season, the Dynamo is not that far away from moving at the top of the Western Conference standing, and you know that this league has kind of gone back to 2010 or 2011 when the Houston Dynamo are finding themselves near the top of the standings. And honestly, if this Dynamo team not only make the playoffs but might finish near the top of the standings, I think Van Olsen is going to be in contention for Coach of the Year. Now, obviously, I don't think he's going to win it because I know for sure the Coach of the Year award is probably going to come from a team in the Eastern Conference. But the fact that I'm having even that discussion and even said that in the year of 2023, I mean, again, Ben Olsen, this has been an incredible job that he's been doing, and that this is a thing that I don't think anybody saw coming, including myself, and even Dynamo fans saw this coming. That Ben Olsen, a guy that looked like he was completely out of his depth, and that it seems like the game kind of passed him by with the way that he was still using MLS 1.0 kind of tactics. Well, that doesn't seem like that's the case. I mean, this team has been fun to watch, and that they really deserve to be this good because it's just been nothing but misery for the Dynamo for the past couple of years, and this is really the first time probably since 2017 that this team has looked really decent and could maybe even be a threat in the West if they can of course take care of their business on the road, because as good as they have been at home, the road form is still kind of a bit of an issue, though in the last couple of road games that maybe be a different story. So that being said, moving on into the last game of this review is Austin and FC Dallas, and I also just realized I didn't even put the timestamp for this one, so let me just do that right now. But in the last game in the Copa House between Austin and FC Dallas, so again, this turns out to be the game with the latest kickoff, as this game didn't kick off until 10:07 p.m. Again, there was a lot of inclement weather that a lot of cities in Texas is dealing with, and Austin was definitely one that felt the brink of it even before the game between Houston and the Quakes were delayed. So yeah, this game didn't kick off until 10:07 p.m. local time. Cascante did have the game first shot, but he heads it wide before a pass with an incredible double save, robbing Fagundes and Radovic. And we thought that this was going to be a game where Martin Pass was going to single-handedly bailing out this Dallas team because coming into this game, like I said about the Quakes, I feel like if you're a Dallas fan, you knew this was going to be an automatic L, knowing the fact that they're missing so many key pieces on the attacking end, and even their main goal scorer, Jesus Ferreira, is not available in this one too. And that Austin again, they're hungry to try to get a win, and they were on the front foot looking to get the opening goal. And they do. In the 17th minute, it's Ethan Finley that gets the opening goal for Austin. But yeah, this is one that Paus would love to have back. Like, he basically fumbled the catch there with this cross coming in. That's something you just don't see Martin Paus Paz has done this season, but he fumbled this catch. It kind of took a couple of ricochet and it found right to Finley, who just taps it in to give Austin a 1-0 lead. By the way, always love to see a former Loons player, especially Ethan Finley, gets on the score sheet. So yeah, that gave Austin a 1-0 lead. Farfan did had Dallas' first chance in the 28th minute, but he missed wide there before Dreyusi would hit it high on the volley. And then in the 42nd minute, yes, Diego Fagundes, he finally got on the score sheet. I wonder he probably might have watched the video that I made yesterday, talk about how he's been really struggling and not get on the score sheet, but he finally did for the first time this season as he scored from Finley to give Austin a 2-0 lead. But again, this is one that Paz, he would love to have this one back because this was an easy catch for him normally from a cross coming in, and he just dropped it. And because he dropped it, it created some chaos. And then Fagundes, a lovely chip to dink that over Paz there, but really that's just Paz undoing, causing that chance for Austin in the first place. And again, just a very uncharacteristic bad game for Martin Paz. Probably, I would argue, the worst game that Martin Paz has played for FC Dallas in this one. Though in the second half, he did kind of make amends of it with him denying Driussi on the volley. There was a shout for a penalty for Los Verdes not given. But then in the 58th minute, they would make it 3-0 as Jersey Zardes, another guy that probably watched my video talking about disappointing and surprising team, talk about how I talked about how he hasn't really been playing well this season for Austin besides that good spell that he had a couple of weeks ago. Well, he's on the score sheet here to make it 3-0 in favor of Los Verdes. Paz would then deny Fagundes a second goal and Austin's fourth, but there was no mercy shown by Austin. They were looking for the fourth goal, and the way that they've been playing, it looked like the old Austin that we saw last season that looked very fluid on the attacking end. Finley then curls one wide before Urruti would puts it right to Paz on the front post. And then Junca did have a rare opportunity for Dallas, but he missed wide there before Rigoni would miss a sitter as the flag went up. And he's probably fortunate the flag went up because that was not a great miss from Rigoni, which again just sums up his time with Austin. He just hasn't figured it out yet. Stuver then denied Cirillo and tried to keep his clean sheet because I know even though the game was pretty much done, for Brad Stuver, he wants to have a clean sheet. And then as the game was about to be over, there was actually a 5v1 chance for Austin. And somehow Cirillo was able to broke up that 5v1 on Rigoni pass. Now, I think at the end of the day, those Austin player and Rigoni can smile about that. But imagine if that was an opportunity for them to either win the game or in a change that can or in that chance that could decide a game where you have a 5v1 and you screw it up. I mean, I would have just instantly wrote that. Pretty much just sums up Austin this season, and in terms of the fact that I don't think I've ever seen a 5v1 kind of be broken up. In fact, I rarely see a 5v1 actually happen. It was kind of crazy to see how there was five Austin player against just lonely Edwin Cirillo. And even though I know Dallas didn't had a good game in this one, I would think Edwin Cirillo broke up that play is going to consider almost a win for them with the way that that looked like it was certainly to be destined to go if it wasn't for Cirillo breaking that up. But nevertheless, Austin with a comfortable victory, and they mentioned this is actually the first win that they had against Dallas in the Copa Tijas. But the shots in this one, 15 shots for the 12 that Dallas had, 7 shots on goal for the 3 that Dallas had, 6 shots off target for the 5 that Dallas had, 2 shots that was blocked for the 4 that Dallas had, and possession-wise, 58% possession compared to the 42% possession that Dallas has in this game. And again, not a big surprise because we knew that coming into this game, Dallas was very short-handed, and for Austin, even though that's the case, they still need to win. And again, this is where I said about the case with the Portland Timbers in a game where they should be able to win against a relatively weak team, and they didn't. That is the Timbers, but fortunately for Austin, that wasn't the case in this one. They needed this one badly, and now let's see whether or not they can use this game and build up into their next game too, because it feels like every time this season when we see Austin get a big win, like they've turned things around, and then the next game they gone back to losing way, which hence that's why I use the phrase 1 step forward and 2 step back when I talk about how they belong in the list of disappointing teams so far this season as we hit the halfway part of the season. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of the review of these games. And again, I'll be doing the review for part number 2 and looking at those Eastern Conference game in the midweek action tomorrow. But until then, hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, make sure you guys see a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.